So on the other side of that polarity is the 10-year-old. So in the car model, it goes from co-pilot down to 10-year-old. And the 10-year-old or tertiary is our eternal child energy. That's what's associated with that part of us. And it's the axis of relating to others. So we look outward, we meet the world with this energy. An eternal child energy, basically, the easiest way to see this is our approval center. This is how we try to show up to gain other people's kudos and think we're great. And this is one of the reasons why I don't think I've met anybody yet that hasn't told me that they're better at their 10-year-old or tertiary than most people. I think I seriously don't know if I've met a single person that has not claimed to be better at this function than, most people are my type, they're that great at this function, but I'm good at this function.
You mean if they know type?
If they know type, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and this is something we do in our personality profiler training is a lot of people will report this part of themselves in a profiling session. Mm-hmm. So we teach our students to look for that because it'll throw you off. You'll think it's the driver sometimes.
Yeah, because
that's how much they put it forward.
Facing it so much.
Oh, yeah, and they need the feedback. So it's like constantly on mind, constantly put to the forefront, constantly like, see what I can do, see what I can do. It's like, don't get tricked. That may not be their driver process you're seeing in a session.
Yep. You got it. And it's a bit of a dog and pony show. So there's a couple ways that this can show up in a relationship that really that can create tension in a partnership. So the first thing I can think of is feeling like your partner is not honoring this like not giving you enough approval, right? I'm doing all these things, unlike the parental energy that can go, and then eventually be like, oh, you're not. Why don't you show gratitude? I feel used, right? You might feel used in this part of who you are if it's parental. If it's eternal child, you need a lot more feedback on a regular basis. You're like seeking approval hits on all the time.
Yeah.
And so if your partner is not giving you due credit, then that might become a source of a problem, right? It's like, no, I need more credit for this. It is still a 10-year-old or tertiary function. It's still an uncertain function. And so you're probably not as good at it as you think you are. So you might be seeking unearned rewards. Does that make sense? And so your partner might not be giving you the kudos you want them to because you actually haven't earned it. It's like you might be doing, in fact, too much. And it also might be a part of yourself that they see as immature, right? Like, why are you always doing this? Why are you always, going to you're doing too much. Why are you always giving the farm away? Why are you overly generous? Why are you spending all your time and energy on your friends? Why are you whatever it is, whatever the problem is, it may be found in this function's desire to get feedback from the outside world that helps it feel like it's doing okay. It does overdo it. That's one of the biggest challenges of this part of us. And when people say, I'm better at it than most, what they're actually saying is, I'm using it all the time, right? And so because I see myself using it all the time, the assumption is I must be good. But what most people don't see is that they're using it all the time in order to get positive feedback. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're upping their game. They're usually using it at max capacity, which is more than they would have expected from themselves. But that doesn't mean that it's enough to generate the kind of kudos or approval they're looking for from the outside world. And it almost always leads to some form of burnout. So this is there's a theory that indicates that a lot of our neurosis are actually sourced from this part of who we are. This is the part where we get a little neurotic. And because of that, that can create some strain in a relationship.
Yeah. So I guess at this point, I want to kind of hunt for the dynamic of what that could actually look like in a very pragmatic way, like a very visceral way.
Well, I mean, using us again as an example, because
it's the closest one.
It's right here, right? And it also means that we don't reveal other people's relationships. So let's just talk about us. I've noticed that this creates the most strain when we believe that the other person is trying to frustrate our impact. So if you think that I'm getting in the way of you being able to use extroverted thinking or effectiveness, which is your 10-year-old or tertiary, if you think that I'm frustrating your ability to make impact in any way, that is when you get the most upset with me. And the same thing with me. If I think that you're frustrating my ability to do extroverted feeling or harmony, like maintain harmonious relationships, that's when I'm the most upset and frustrated with you. So when we're frustrating our attempts to use it, and sometimes we're doing it inappropriately. Like, I mean, just radically honest, sometimes you are like, you overwork. You just do, right? Like sometimes,
what?
Yeah. Sometimes you're like,
wait to tell me on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, this is a conversation we have all the time, so whatever. But it's like, it's like, why are you working until 10 o'clock at night? Why are you overdoing it? Why are you spreading yourself so thin?
Yes.
Why do you blah, 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 blah? And you're like, and now you're upset with me because I'm frustrating your attempts to do extroverted thinking or effectiveness well.
Yeah.
Same thing on the other side. I'm sometimes people pleasing and kowtowing in an inappropriate way. And you're like, why are you giving your power away? Why are you doing that? That doesn't, and I'm like, and I'm mad that you're getting in the way of me being able to form the relationships I want. And so, or like do it maybe not in the best way.
Yeah.
And so we observe each other's immaturity in this part. And then we call it out, and then the other person gets real salty about that. It's like, but you're getting in my way of making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I have a very clear example of this that happened between the two of us. It's a scene that illustrates this perfectly. We're on the way to New York City to meet a friend / business partner. I think I've shared the story on the podcast probably years ago.
Because it's burned in your brain. I always forget about it.
But it's such a great example of this. We're running late. We're on the trains going to New York City, trying to get to this dinner at a location. And we're running late and we miss our exit. And I'm stressing out because I want to be on a timeline. I want to get this job done. I want to get us to the event. I want to have this business meeting and this connection. And I know that we have a time clock that, the person won't be able to bring their wife and their child if we don't, they'll meet with us alone, but we're going to miss this window very soon. So I'm like, moving. We missed our exit. We finally get to the place we need to go. We still have to walk like 2 blocks. And you're dressed nicely. We have one of our team members with us and me. We're both dressed up. You're in heels. And we're kind of like, so it's slow because you're walking. I'm like, okay, we gotta keep moving. And I've got this timeline. I've got this goal and this thing we have to accomplish. We're in New York City and you look over and you see one of the hot dog guy push cart things, like stuck in a mud puddle on the side of the street, like trying to get it up over the side of the thing.
Lip.
You're like, I need to go help. Like, don't go help. That guy does this every day. Somebody else can help. There's a city filled with 8 million people. Like, it's not going to be dependent on you, Antonia. Let's get to the restaurant. Come on, let's go. And you're like, no. And you go over and you step down in the puddle. You get your feet like dirty and wet. And you're like next to this guy trying to push this out. And it becomes very clearly apparent. This is not going to be a quick fix. This is a project now, right? This is like no longer a task. It's now a project with many steps in it. Because you're going to have to move, like a lot of stuff's going to happen. But you're like, you're trying as hard as you can. And I haven't tried to help you. I'm like, oh, come on. And then finally, I don't know what happened, if you guys got it loose or you moved it around. But here you're seeing a person in need, right? And it's activating that harmony process.
That's right.
And you're like, priority number 1, like there's a person in need. Why wouldn't I want to help? Like, I know that we got a timeline, but there's a need here that trumps the timeline. You might be on a timeline, Joel, but your system's there. And I'm sitting here going, we're on a timeline. There's 1 million people or 8 million people that can help this guy. It doesn't have to be you, Antonia, but we do have to get to this business dinner that we've already committed to. And so we had this conflict right in the moment.
Battle of
and I'm frustrated with you. And then we argue all the way to the dinner, argue after the dinner about it. Right. I think we even argued like months later about it. It's like both, like I probably have more heat about it than you do. But I think that's a good example of, we're talking about these things like, and you might have these unhealthy relationships and somebody else but also your experience as a couple in these moments, these scenes you have, and you're just like, what is going on? Why is this person trying to harm me and prevent the thing? Can't they clearly see what needs to happen?
Yeah.
You would say that. Can't Joel see clearly this guy needs help? He's standing right here and sees another human being in need. He lacks compassion. Can he not see that? And I'm standing on the other side, like I'm on the sidewalk going, can't Antonia understand that we're already late? She's been on the train with me. She missed the exit with me. Why is she doing this? Why is she so obtuse? And both of us have our perspective there and we're in conflict around it.
And we're trying to gain approval for that childlike energy. Your approval was waiting for you at the dinner.
Yeah.
For being there on time, being
responsible.
responsible.
User, by the way.
Who was in
I'm going to be like, I'm going to be embarrassed and humiliated because
Somebody
they're going to
with-
be like, where were you?
ENTJ preferences. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm so humiliated that I'm going to be late for this.
That's
My
right.
extroverted thinking is just humiliated and you're making it worse.
That's right. Whereas me, I would be humiliated to just walk by the guy.
Yeah.
That would be a humiliation to my extroverted feeling or harmony. I would feel like an asshole. I'd be like, I'm a terrible person.
Yes.
And so it was a perfect example of a clashing of our eternal child energies.
Yeah.
And there's uncertainty in there. That's part of the agitation. That's like I'm like, am I a bad person if I just walk by this guy? And you're like, am I a loser if I show up a little bit late or later than even we're gonna be? So
yeah,
there's uncertainty in there. There's frustration. There's a lot of victim language. Like both of us felt like we were victims to each other. Man, I wonder how often that's happening in partnerships.
Oh yeah, I think all the time.
All the time.
But these eternal child's energies are looking for that approval, and they're like desperate.
Yeah,
we're reading as our partner, maybe in a whole different. Maybe we read it badly, but it's like, oh wait, this is just a childlike part that just needs approval right now. Validation.
Yep.
You're okay. And so I think even there, as you're looking through your car model and your partner's car model, I think you can start to see, okay, where is the conflict happening?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the first steps in a couple's mapping of your personality types. Is just, can we figure out, is it my 10-year-old eternal child in conflict with your heroic energy? Are they in conflict with each other? Or is it just both of our 10-year-olds are kind of in a conflict with each other?
Yeah.
Or multiple are in conflict with multiple of parts of you?
Yeah, am I handing over power to my partner when I shouldn't be, or am I taking power where I shouldn't? What are the assumptions I'm just entering the dynamic with? And again, it's a systems problem. It's not, most things aren't a people problem. Most things are a systems problem. And if you take a person and break it down to its system, like, is it really truly that I wanted to frustrate you by helping this hot dog vendor out, right? Like, I was really going to get Joel and stick it to him, right? Or and were you trying to make me feel like a terrible person by just walking by? No, obviously not. Like, we had no ill intent towards each other at all. It wasn't a people problem. It was a system problem that there was a part of the system inside of us that was compelled to act. These were parts of us that almost we couldn't decide. Like, they were deciding for us.
Yeah.
That's how the system is set up. Now, we're a lot more savvy about that. We're a lot more aware and attuned. And so we watch for those kinds of things now, but only because we have language for it. Otherwise, that particular dynamic would probably show up in our relationship over and over and over again until the day we died, if we didn't understand what was going on.
Yes.
And so I think that's why being able to go, oh, okay, so these are the assumptions, the expectations, these are the energies that are happening inside of me. We actually can't control the pre-wiring. We can't control the black box is set up, right? Like, how we are set up is, to some extent, a lot of that is predetermined. But what we can do is we can take the black box and we can program it, right? And so I'm just always going to have these functions in those positions associated with those archetypal energies, and handing power away or taking power. Like, that's just how the system's set up. But if I'm aware of that, I won't make it your problem. Or if I am making it your problem, I can realize that quickly and then reverse course. And that's the whole point of using type in relationships, is going, well, I'm not going to change some of these DNA level construction, substrates of my personality construction. But I don't have to change them. I don't have to change the hardware. I can update the software, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why just being able to map it out in front of you is really powerful.
I mean, speaking of mapping it out, I'm going to talk about our couples mapping program, personality types and relationships.
Well, you should.
I think it's one of the best programs we've ever created.
I agree.
It doesn't, we don't put a lot of attention to it because I think we're just so focused on our personality life path mentorship because it's such a deep program and it's about shadow work. And so this one's more about mapping a relationship with your partner, or on your own, just mapping your relationship. And it could be applied to other types of intimate relationships as well, not just, partnerships romantically. You could do parental child or other types of relationships, I think, in this dynamic.
That's a really good point, because even though the context of it is romantic relationship, I think that it's a very powerful program for any one-to-one.
Yeah.
Anytime you have an intimate relationship with another person, whether it's romantic or not, I think couples mapping is a great way of helping diagnose some of the bigger challenges, including parent-child, sibling,
Yeah.
good friends.
So we designed it. Every program we design, we try to either have an operational component to it, like our personality profiling is you can do a profiling session. Life path, it's like operationally digging up some challenge of your shadow and creating a systems map and a pathway forward. In the couples mapping, it's designed to create a couples map. That's the takeaway, right? That's the tool you have at the end of the program, and the program's designed for you to build that couples map. And you could do it without your partner if you had to on just one side of that. But basically, it's a nice tool to have and go, okay, maybe you could get as good at doing it in real time on the streets of New York when your partner goes and helps the hot dog person. But you could basically kind of go, oh, wait, okay, so my partner has extroverted feeling or harmony as their 10-year-old, that eternal child part of themselves. Well, no wonder they're always looking to give in those moments, like we're walking down the streets in New York City. Okay, that makes sense. And no wonder my eternal child, if I look on this couples map, that's extroverted thinking or effectiveness. Well, no wonder I'm very focused on getting to the event at time and the business meeting. And I'm going to feel a little embarrassed about the person judging me around my ability to get us there. And I feel like I have to lead it all and make sure it happens. Well, no wonder we had conflict on the streets of New York that day.
Yep.
I wonder where else that's happening. And so we start to pay attention to the map. And it's almost like we have this diagnostic tool that we can now reference back to before, during, and after conflict. And we can start to see things emerge. Behaviors come from that, and know which part of us is in conflict with our partner or person that we're in a relationship with, whether it's friend or family,
Yep.
So I think it's a fantastic program. It comes with 2 owner's manuals that are also programs in their own right, courses in their own right, going deep into each individual type. So you pick which one for you and your partner. And again, if you're just one-sided, I think a lot of people don't realize that this is designed so you could just go through it on your own and map your partnership.
Yeah.
So
powerfully.
I just wanted to bring attention to it because, and I would also bring attention to the owner's manuals themselves of your personality, because some of the things we talked about, the car model today, there's a lot here, and there's a lot you can go down into. Things like, how do you build a life around being in your flow state, ergonomically designed for how your personality type is? Like, what are the things you'd want to put in a day-to-day level, building your ideal day for how you're wired, how you learn information, make decisions. Talks about things like getting stuck in a grip where you're that 3-year-old grips you and prevents you from getting the results you want or the optimizations in life. There's this idea of trauma looping, where you're kind of in a trauma looping situation for specific to your personality. There's 3 different styles of trauma looping. We talk about it in there too, and how to get out of those. And then we talk about that co-pilot and all the growth state there. I mean, it's just a great program, and we keep adding to it topically and everything. So again, I would recommend either couples mapping, if you're interested in some of the stuff we did where we're mapping relationships, or those owner's manuals just for yourself, or even, partnership. You can do it on your own without couples mapping, but I think it takes the 2 owner's manuals that come with couples mapping. It makes it really a clear map of your relational dynamics. Let's put it that way.
Yep, you got it.